Can you talk about the feeling of being in a cave in a tight spot, and like what do you actually enjoy about that?
Once you start getting in those small spaces, at first it's scary, and there has been plenty of times we go in them and it's just too much for me and I'm scared. But then you go back and you keep going back, and at first you don't know why you go back, but at some point it's certainly a unique feeling when you are in a constricted passage and your fight or flight mechanism in your heart and your whole body is triggered, and there's nothing you can do. And you literally have to let go of every emotion and thought and idea that you've ever had, every nice thing a person's ever spoken to you, every mean thing, all the life's bitterness, all its trials, but all its successes. Like, nothing matters in that moment. You let go, and your mind is literally, and I know it's a little philosophical, but you are just set free, where you are in the moment, and it's a forced serenity in a way, where you have to, you just can't fight against this, you can't flee, you give up. And I think as a human, we rarely give up. We're always fighting a war. We're rarely truly resting. And if you are in a constrictive passage, we call it a cave hug. There is nothing you can do. And so it's a weird feeling, and you move through it. You have to stay calm, be patient. You move through the passage. You get out of the cave. You find new stuff. That's exciting. But ultimately, you go home and you think, that's a feeling that cannot be replicated doing anything else.
Jacob, do you mind talking about how you got involved in the first place?
I got involved with caving originally by my grandpa said that there's this cave up in the woods somewhere. And so we set out to find it one winter. And the road had logs all over it. And we were cutting logs off the road and plowing the road and trying to find this cave that was supposed to be there. And over the course of a couple of weeks, we just kept it going back. And we finally got to the cave the next spring when the snow melted. And we went in it, and it was gigantic. It was huge. We walked through it, and immediately then I was hooked. And I think about 3 months later, our school had a field trip to the ape caves. I'm like, this is cool. And then there was like safety equipment and stairs and everything in there. And I'm like, it's not as cool as knowing that around the next corner is unknown and unexplored and might not ever been entered before. And then we went caving once with my uncle, and he found a new cave. We went in it, and it was really cool. And immediately then we got hooked and started filming it, and we just kept on going back into the caves. And over time, we've just created a YouTube channel and grew, and it was just crazy how it just escalated so quickly over a 6-month period.
Jacob, were you scared at first at all?
Yes, I was actually very claustrophobic and quite horrified. In a tight passage, let's say there's a spider or a centipede or a cricket on the wall, I was scared of that. But over time, when you're cramped and like tucked up against them, you learn they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to really do anything. They're just going to sit there. I'm still creeped out by them, but I just know that there's not much is going to happen.
You talk about how you build up tolerance over time to the claustrophobic.
All right. Originally, I was horrified to go in tight spaces. I wouldn't do it. I would have him lead if we had to. I'd let Uncle lead. But over time, I wanted to go first, and then I wanted to see what's around the next corner. And then I come home, I'm like, I want to see what's around that next corner. And I want to see what's next. Or, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of turned into a curiosity. Cool. So, I mean, are your parents cool with this and everything? Do you mind saying to the camera?
Yeah, my dad's totally okay with it because he knows that I won't get too hurt. Like, I do get hurt, but I won't. There's not a real danger of dying per se, but my mom doesn't mind, my dad doesn't mind. They think it's fine that I go caving because most of the time we're on solid ground crawling through tight spaces, But the times that we are climbing up steep or cliffs, we use gear to ensure safety.
His dad does bark at me if we're going on a vertical cave, because this takes technical expertise. Jacob is a real technical expert. We've gone through a lot of training. But obviously his dad and I are brothers, and he's also an outdoorsman, so he trusts me, I suppose, but he gets on my case.
Yeah,
he's like, if you take him vertical, you make sure that you bring him home.
My question, yeah, when did you start documenting these? When did you start documenting your adventures? Have you been doing it for a while before you started documenting them?
We made a caving video, and that was on social media. That just got attention like nothing else did. People were like, I don't know why I don't like this, but I also can't stop watching. And we're like, okay, let's push that button for a while. So it took a while. It's very hard to film inside caves, but this was a part of the challenge. Because Jacob, like me, he's perfectly capable of just going on a hike. He's perfectly capable of crawling through a cave. What gets harder is now do a presentation in a cave. Talk, take video, bring your lights with you. We found this to be a really exciting challenge. We would do this completely anonymously, but people started enjoying it, and so we're trying to make sure that we're doing what we want to do only, but we do allow other people's interests to shape that. If they say we'd like to see this, or this would be interesting, or we notice people really like seeing the tight passages, so let's set up our gear and let's go through some tight passages to show people what that's really like. So it's been one step after the other kind of thing, where I say to Jacob, we're following this path and we're going to see where it leads. And that's all we're doing, is we're following a road that's kind of laid out in front of us, partly by intention and partly by somebody else putting the bricks there. And so we're walking, seeing where that goes.
And then there's also people think they're going to see a bear that's going to attack them, or an animal. And that's
Talk about animals in caves?
Animals in caves. Animals in caves don't necessarily go in caves, because animals can see great in the dark, they can see great outside, but in a cave where there's no visible light for their eyes to adjust to, then they cannot see. And that's the same reason why we usually don't go in caves without flashlights, because it's dark and you can easily just can't find the exit.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to feel around the walls. Same thing with animals. A bear will dig its own den. Usually within 4 hours before hibernation, they just dig the den and go to sleep. But they don't mostly never go in caves.
Trying to raise money for Jacob's college fund? Is that through your Patreon?
Yeah, we at first we just wanted to set up accounts. I actually had people ask, hey, we'd like to donate to you. And I thought, I don't need money. And I don't think it will ever be much if I doubt somebody's going to be a benefactor, but I believe we live in a rich culture, and so I'm not a big fan of asking people for money. I let ads do their thing. But I thought, you know what? If people give to this, we'll give 100% of that to Jacob to see that he goes to whatever school he wants. If he, for some reason, got a scholarship, then fine. He can buy clothes while he's at school, or buy food, or buy books. But we wanted to just be honest about that. I don't think it's enough. It's not going to be pay for his college. It might be, but that's the idea. We'll give 100% of the funds that people just donate to the channel. This guy's going to go to school.
What would you say to people who argue oh, what you're doing is you're advocating for people to do dangerous things that are potentially life-threatening? What would you say to those people?
Well, usually I don't say anything because I don't think I'm going to change their opinion on what is danger and what is risk. I think people have a fundamental misunderstanding of the personal nature of risk or danger. The problem we have is what we're doing, we do in a very safe manner. I have friends that do this. Nobody ever really gets hurt. I say nobody. There's percentages for the amount of injuries per extreme sport. But we do things that we believe is in a very safe manner. But we want to present it in a dangerous way because that's why people watch it, because the perception is dangerous. So we're giving a dangerous perception and then trying to argue that it's not dangerous, and so it doesn't work very good. So I've come to terms with the fact that I can't win those debates. But not speaking for what Jacob goes through, because he's younger than me, but as an adult, I have this thought in my mind. It's really just a question that is posed. We have never thought what we do is risky or dangerous, but people that watch us, people that hear about what we're doing, see what we're doing, that's a question they have. And their questions have caused me to question what is even, like big philosophical questions. What is life? And if we're saying that what you're doing is dangerous, do we mean that you could die? And if we're saying that you could die doing it, then are we saying that death is bad? Because everybody's going to die. And I know it's a cliche kind of quote. Everyone's going to die. There's not that many people that do something super interesting with their life. People, they say it's dangerous, but then they also hate the cycle of waking up, going to work, saying hi to the same people, eating dinner, going to bed, waking up, going to work. And it's a hard cycle to break. People don't like that cycle in their life, but when they see somebody break outside this mold and go do something that's wild and not like other people are doing, they seem to have some sort of aversion, as if that's also wrong. If we're going to break out of the mundane nature of life, you simply have to break out of it. We have to accept that there's certain risks. I don't know. I know it's a longer conversation, but I think to myself, what if the internet existed when we were trying to go to the moon? As a nation, we were trying to go to the moon. How many haters would they have? You're going to go die. Our nation, our government is killing these people who are astronauts. And they did die, and many of them did. And what did you accomplish? You went to the moon. There's nothing on the moon. We already knew there was nothing. You found nothing. It wasn't interesting. So some risk is going to be involved anytime somebody wants to go outside the norm, anytime you want to try to discover something, anytime there is some level of risk that has to be accepted, some level of possibility that you will die younger than you would if you sat at home and had proper medical treatment and never did anything dangerous. You may well live to be 100, but does that matter to somebody who might get injured at a younger age, who lived a very full life? I'm not answering the question. I'm saying that's the question I now have that is running in my mind pretty often.
Wow, yeah, no, that was really interesting to hear and inspirational, because it's true. Probably someone who doesn't get out of my comfort zone too much, so that's super interesting. What would you say is like the main message you hope people will take away from watching your channel?
I'm going to let Jacob answer that first, and then I'll follow him.
To go outside. Just put your phone down and go outside. That's our main goal. Just like, don't watch our videos, just go outside.
And Jacob and I he's inherited this from my family. We have the unique ability to find trouble. So I say we will find trouble, and we will go until we find trouble. And if we don't find trouble, it's not nearly as interesting. We find trouble. I mean, it's amazing that I'm still waiting to find an animal or something that we have to fight off. I mean, we're ready. We'll wrestle bears.
You stepped on a rattlesnake.
I did step on that rattlesnake. We'll rescue you. Go caving, Russell. We'll come get you.
Hey, I mean, it sounds really cool. I'm a little claustrophobic, but I feel like watching your videos is enough claustrophobia for me.
Is that the cave?
Rattlesnake. See it?
Where?
You hear it?
I heard the brush go when the wind. I heard a buzz. It was a grasshopper or the wind.
It was a rattlesnake.
We also keep hearing rattles, and we're not sure if they're rattlesnakes. We don't particularly want to find out. It does it to me. I stick my... You're not even sticking your head... Ah! There he is. Don't move. He's not close, he's a baby.
The western diamondback rattlesnake, or in this case we think it was a prairie rattlesnake, packs enough venom to kill several people, especially when we're this far away from civilization. But they don't like to strike.
He will bite the dickens out of you.
I'm not going in that hole.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's ready to strike.
Really?
Yep. He's not that close. Hey, buddy. This is Jacob's new pet. I'm going to take a picture of him. Oh, he doesn't like me at all. We're out here looking for some caves in the desert. As you can see, the identifying markers are few and far between. They used to not know how this happened because rocks would travel 30, 50, sometimes a quarter of a mile out here. Started here, moved here. How does this happen? This happens from the rain and the wind, and when it's muddy out here and rainy, and then a big wind will come by, and it just moves a rock just a couple inches at a time. Sometimes not even that far, sometimes just a millimeter. But over time, it slowly pushes its way along. We're out here in a part of the world where these caves do have animals in them, and cats and coyotes, because they're not freezing, they're more room temperature. We're also trying to keep a lookout for snakes, because there are rattlesnakes out here.
Found a cool coyote jaw here, and how you can tell it's a coyote jaw is, well, just look at the teeth. A big canine up front, more tiny sharper ones, and then one with a more jagged edge before the back teeth.
It's like a chair and a bowl. When the lava flow pours through the earth and melts in certain shapes, kind of rounded edges and things like that, but then, this is in the entrance of the cave, wind whips down back and forth through the entrance and weathers these rocks. These are essentially sandblasted rocks over thousands of years. So lava forms them in strange shapes, and then the sandblast comes through.
Here, in the sunlight-starved hallways of darkness, lies colorful arrangements of volcanic shapes and artifacts. It's amazing what just a few thousand years of wind and sand can do to shape a cave.
Thingy out in the middle of nowhere.
It's a cave.
It is a cave, it's a cave. Let's go check it out, come on. It belongs to an airplane. Oh, okay. Oh, goodness, this is cool. I don't know.
Oh, plenty of light. We can sit
We could.
over there. How's
Real struggles here. Here we go. Whew. So, we're here. We see this giant thing behind us. Put two and two together, big brain time. The fence is crunched, and that log is too, so we're guessing the truck wreck came, ripped it, and this thing rolled off the road over here. That's too high.
Yep, stand on my shoulders. Put your feet there.
Okay.
These are okay if you put your feet on my hands
That
correctly.
might fall.
Human ladder! the thickness of this steel here, this is like 6 inches thick of steel. This thing's destroyed. This is probably, honestly, $1 million piece of machine. Of probably oil piping or something, Jacob? What do you think? There's Jacob up here. Let me zoom in on you, buddy. This feels so science fiction-y.